Well, there are at least 1,400 Canadians in the Philippines. The government has set up a phone line in Ottawa for anyone in Canada looking for information on family and friends in the region. The numbers are right there on your screen. They're also on our webpage. And as we mentioned, the government will match donations for the Philippines made through a registered Canadian charity with no cap on the total amount. Donations can be made up until December the 8th. Many in the Filipino community here are still waiting, hoping and praying to hear from loved ones in the disaster zone. And even in a time of uncertainty and grief, thoughts are turning to helping the victims. Joanna Remiliotis has that.
It's been days of calling over and over again, dozens of times a day, without anyone answering, until suddenly someone does. Like so many in the Filipino community, the Quintias have been on an emotional roller coaster since a typhoon hit their home province.
Mom! Mommy! It's hard. And all I do is cry and cry and cry.
Canada's Filipino community is marked by close ties and large extended families back home. At a local community center, care packages are being put together.
Whatever we can help, materially and volunteering and even prayers. We need prayers for everyone.
Deeply religious faith has been a beacon, but the need to reach out, find out, share any bits of information has created a virtual community too.
This entire family, we haven't heard from them, nowhere to be found.
Communication is difficult, often impossible. When the internet does work, Facebook pages are flooded with messages from people asking for help. Tom Price represents Canadians from the devastated province of Leytonio.
Just this afternoon, my brother called me and he says, everything's okay. I said, what about our two cousins? They haven't found them yet.
You have water?
Back at the Quintias' home, they've just found out a missing aunt has been found. But everyone is living with no electricity and little food. Now help is coming from very close to home.
Really encouraged and extremely proud that it's coming from my son, you know.
Yeah.
Marty Quintia is a nurse in Toronto. And now on his way to the Philippines this week as part of a medical assessment team. It's hitting him now how hard the trip will be.
I am having a hard time talking right now.
Why are you feeling emotional?
It's just that I'm happy that I heard from my grandmother, you know, but I'm also sad that they're in that state.
But on one level, he says, heading into the unknown is better than imagining it. Joanna Remiliotis, CBC News, Mississauga, Ontario.
Some startling images of the storm were captured from space as it hit the Philippines on Saturday that show its huge scope and size. This animation shows a combination of visible and infrared imagery from a Japanese weather satellite. It begins on November 3rd and shows how the storm moved across the islands through this past Friday. The International Space Station also snapped some shots of the storm at its height. Time to bring in Claire with more on the super typhoon and its strength. Claire?
Peter, questions still arising today about the strength of the storm. And here's the issue. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center, which is the agency that monitors this particular part of the Pacific Basin, has had to estimate wind strengths from satellites and currently is looking at a sustained wind upon impact with land in excess of 300 kilometers an hour, making it the strongest landfalling ever. But I've got to say, huge data retrieval issues are going on with this system. As it made landfall, it basically destroyed weather observing sites. It even destroyed a radar that was due to be put in place in around 2014, which really would have helped us out. And to make what is already a miserable situation wretched, this cluster of storms is now forecast to be yet another typhoon that could potentially hit the Philippines. Peter?
All right, Claire, thank you. And Claire will be back a little later. Typhoon Haiyan's destructive power wasn't isolated to the Philippines. It's responsible for at least 10 deaths in 2 other countries. The storm slammed into Vietnam and China early Monday, flooding coastal communities and uprooting trees. Even at a reduced strength, it's the strongest storm on record to hit the region.